Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala habibina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my sisters in Islam. How are you all? Inshallah ta'ala doing good and well. And your family and your children, may Allah protect them from evil and evil eyes. And in, out and about, may Allah protect you and your family from all evil that is surrounding us and the calamities that is going around. And we are hearing all these bad news and sudden deaths and that. So, my sisters in Islam, we should always say istighfar, remember Allah in every breath, because we never know. If you're going out, you can come back again. So we must always be prepared that whenever the death strikes us, we are saturated, our mouth, our tongue is saturated with istighfar, asking forgiveness from our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the only one who guides us and gives us life and gives us health and takes away all the pain and diseases that is surrounded these days, that almost every household are affected by pain, diseases, agony, calamities. May Allah protect us Muslims, inshallah ta'ala. So let's get started, my sisters, for my topic of today. The Battle of Badr begins. The Quraysh smarted at having lost 3 men before the battle had even begun. They charged at the Muslims, who, encouraged by their early success, faced the onslaught without flinching, proclaiming Allah's oneness. The Muslims cried out, Ahad, Ahad, oneness, oneness of Allah. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who was given an insight into the supernatural allies sent to him, turned to Abu Bakr and said, Rejoice, O Abu Bakr, Allah's help has come. This is Jibreel moving ahead with his horse bridle in his hand. His garments are besmeared with dirt and dust. Allah's help came in the form of 1,000 angels. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ then marched forward toward the fray, and at that moment the following verses were revealed. Soon will their multitude be put to flight, and they will show their backs. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ took a handful of dust and threw it at the Quraysh, saying, Let their faces be disfigured. The dust flew into the eyes and noses of the Quraysh, as mentioned in the verses. It was not you who threw it, but Allah. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ ordered his men to attack, crying out, Rise! The Muslims, outnumbered 3-1, were inspired when they saw that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself, it was present among them and ready to fight. Supported by the invisible army of angels, the Muslims swarmed over the Quraysh. The Quraysh fell one after another, and soon they retreated in disarray. The Muslims followed in pursuit, slaying some and capturing others. Satan who was also present in this guise of Suraka bin Malik bin Jusham, saw the army of angels and escaped by plunging into the Red Sea out of fear. Abu Jahl killed. As benefiting a general, Abu Jahl was well protected during the battle by men carrying swords and spears. He was so well guarded, no Muslim could even get near to him. A young boy told Abdurrahman bin Auf Show me Abu Jahl. Abdurrahman replied, What have you to do with him? I have been told that he threatens the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. By the one in whose hand my life lies, I shall kill him when I see him, or shall be killed by him. Another young boy told Abdurrahman the same thing. Suddenly, Abdurrahman spotted Abu Jahl on the battlefield and pointed him out to the two young boys. They attacked him fiercely with their swords, and Abu Jahl fell to the earth. After the battle, they both presented themselves before the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, each claiming to have killed Abu Jahl. He looked at their swords and proclaimed, Both of you have killed him. The young boys were Mudah ibn Afra and Mudah ibn Amir. The first is said to have been martyred in the same battle, but Mudah ibn Amir remained alive till the caliphate of Uthman radiallahu anhu. The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave him Abu Jahl's belongings. Abdullah bin Masud, who found Abu Jahl dying on the battlefield, placed his leg on his old enemy's neck and caught hold of his beard to behead him. Hasn't Allah disgraced you, O enemy of Allah? Even as he lay dying, Abu Jahl was unrepentant. For what have I been disgraced? Is there anybody above the men who have killed? I only wish someone other than a farmer had killed me. Tell me who was victorious today. Allah and His messengers, Abdullah said, O herdsmen, you have mounted a very difficult place. Abu Jahl responded. Abdullah radiallahu anh then cried his head out, then cut off his head and placed it before the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah is the greatest. Allah praise is due to Allah. The Prophet cried he was proven his promise to be true, helped his servants and defeated the opposing army. Gazing at Abu Jahl's head before him, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, he was the Firaun of his nation. With Abu Jahl's death, the Quraysh were humbled and defeated. They scattered, defeated by an army of men and angels, and ended the battle of Badr. It was fought not for territory, riches, or honor, but to make belief in Allah victorious over unbelief. The Muslims fought against their fathers, uncles, sons, brothers, cousins, and friends. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu killed his maternal uncle, Asi bin Hisham, while Abu Bakr faced his son, Abdurrahman, and the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's uncle Abbas was captured. Utbah bin Rabia, who was one of the first three to challenge the Muslims in a preliminary duel, fought against his son. Abu Hudayfa, one of the Prophet's closest companions, blood ties were severed so that belief would prevail over unbelief. The day came to be called Yom al-Furqan, the day of distinction, because on this day the battle lines were drawn not according to tribe but according to belief in Allah. 14 Muslims were honored with martyrdom during the battle of Badr, 6 Muhajireens and 8 Ansar. They were buried at Badr, and their grave sites are still known today. On the pagan side, 70 men were slain and an equal number there taken captive. Most of the dead were tribal notables and chieftains. In fact, the bodies of 24 pagan chieftains were thrown into a foul-smelling well. The Prophet Muhammad and his men stayed in Badr for 3 days. When he was about to begin the journey back to Medina, he stood over the well and called out to each chieftain by name, O son and son of so, do you wish you had obeyed Allah and His Messenger? I have found that what my Lord promised me is true. Did you find your Lord's promise true? O Prophet Muhammad Umar radiallahu asked, how can you talk to bodies which have no souls and they are dead? They hear me just as you do, O Umar, but they cannot answer. The Prophet Muhammad explained. The pagans who had escaped carried the news to their defeat back to Mecca. The Meccans were crushed and disgraced, unwillingly to give the Muslims still in Mecca a chance to see them grieve. They prohibited mourning over their dead and captured. Refraining from mourning, however, would not be easy. For example, Aswad bin Muttalib lost 3 sons at Badr, and he desperately wanted to cry sorrow for his dead sons. One night he heard a woman weeping uncontrollably, and he assumed that mourning had been permitted. He immediately sent a slave to find out if it was so. He found out that mourning was still banned. The woman was crying for her lost camel. When he learned this, he raged over this act. She cries because her camel is lost and restlessness has disrupted her sleep. Cry not over the camel, but over Badr, where fortune fell on an evil day. The Prophet Muhammad sent 2 messengers to announce the victory of the people of Medina. Abdullah bin Rawada went to northern Medina, while Zayd bin Haritha went to southern Medina. The people of Medina had been worried, especially because the Jews had spread rumors that the mighty Quraysh had overpowered the Muslims. When the Prophet's messenger arrived, the people shouted, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the most great. The Muslims were jubilant. Allah had given them victory, and they were serene in their belief that Allah would reward those Muslims who fell in battle. While the Muslims were beheading back to Medina, the Prophet Muhammad received a revelation from Allah concerning the distribution of the spoils of war. 1/5 of the booty was set aside for the Prophet Muhammad and the rest was to be distributed among those who fought in the battle. He became the first prophet who was allowed to share in the spoils of war. Allah was ordained that Nadir bin Harith be executed, and Ali radiallahu anhu beheaded him. Later, the command to kill Utbah bin Abu Mu'ayth was given, and Asim bin Thabit Ansari beheaded him. But some sources indicate that it was Ali bin Abi Talib who killed them. Upon hearing the news of the great victory, many of the citizens from Medina traveled towards Badr in hopes of being the first to congratulate the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They met the victorious Muslims in Ruha and accompanied them back to Medina, the site of the trumpet. Muslims entered Medina with dozens of captives, led many people to become Muslims. After reaching Medina, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had consultations regarding the prisoners of war. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said that they should let the Quraysh buy their freedom, while Umar radiallahu anhu was in favor of executing all of them. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ decided to set them free in return for a ransom. which ranged from 1,000 to 4,000 dinars. Those who could not pray were literate were required to teach them Muslim children, each by the way of ransom. Excuse me. Those unable to do either were set free anyway. The Prophet recognized he himself had given it to his daughter as a wedding gift. His eyes filled with tears, and he sought the consent of his companions to free Abu Abdul As without reason. The companions agreed, and Abdul As was freed on the condition that he would let Zainab migrate to Medina. After he returned to Mecca, Zainab was allowed to join her father in Medina. So, my sisters in Islam, this was the topic for today, the Battle of Badr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent so many angels to help our beloved Prophet with the battle in Badr. So there are many miracles Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does if we ask Allah, beg Allah for help. But we must also, not when we need help, but throughout our lives and everyday life, we should remember Allah, ask forgiveness. Not only that when we are just in need. Of course, we are in need of Allah all the time in our life. There's not a minute that we can survive without Allah's blessings. If it's not for Allah's blessings, we would be nothing. Who is there to help us? And who is there to give us shifa, our health, to us, to our children, to our families? Only Allah does. Medicine doesn't work until Allah does not put shifa in it. And we beg Allah when we pray, when we put our foreheads in sujood and ask and beg Allah to give shifa to the sick that are in hospitals, that they are not getting well or the medicines are not benefiting them. Then we beg and cry to Allah. But we must continue to beg and cry and ask forgiveness from Allah. Even if Allah gives shifa, it doesn't mean that after He gives shifa, we just forget Allah and get busy with our materialistic lives. Because, like Allah has said, that the death will come to each and every one. Regardless they are Muslims or Kafir, it's the time. When the time is up, we will not even have a minute to think, oh, we want to do this, we have to do that, our money, our bank balances. No, there will be a full stop. You will not have time to think that all the $1 million, the pounds in the banks and all the properties you earn, I want to sort them out. No, the time is up. So Allah is the most merciful. So we must always sitting, thinking not only about the dunya or how we're going to get rich and what shall we do and how shall we get more money and more money. That will not help us, my sisters in Islam. We cannot take anything in the grave with us, my sisters in Islam. Not even one penny. All that we are going to take is the coffin that they are going to put the white sheet around us, and then we'll be thrown into that big hole that's dug as a grave. So, my sisters in Islam, open up, open your eyes, get attached to Allah, try to follow the wives, the mutaharat, the zawajat of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way they used to dress, used to cover hijab, so that we might be protected by Allah's blessings and the mercy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give upon us if we try to follow in good intention. Until we meet again, my sisters in Islam, please take care. And as usual, the most important is our salah, the 5 times. May Allah give you tawfiq. We must not lose the key of the Jannah. If we leave the salah, we are losing the keys and the entrance to Jannah. This is the only way that we can enter Jannah, is with our 5 times salah. If we lose the salah, we lose Jannah and the keys of the doors of Jannah. Till we meet again, my sisters in Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.